Hi everybody, TheSuffolkRam from our nerds. Welcome to my review of the last episode of Season 10 of Doctor Who, the Doctor Fours. There may be some minor spoilers ahead, so if you don't think spoiled, please turn off now. I am going to do a bit of a spoiler for last week's episode, because it's a two-part, so I can't really not talk about last week's episode. So if you've not watched last week's episode, this is a double warning for what I'm about to say. So, we've basically kicked off straight away following the last episode. You know, Doctor and Nardole have managed to make their way down towards the lower level to try and rescue Bill. They found Bill, but unfortunately it's too late. She's been turned into a Cyberman or Cyberman, woman, person. They found her. Master has been revealed to be still around, John Simm's Master, so Master and Missy are back together again and team up again. And they basically, this episode kicks off with them shortly after it's all happened, and then having basically how they move on from there. It develops initially from a normal, you know, these are Simon, these are bad, look what you've done, look what you've created, episode with the Doctor and the Master and Missy and Bill. And pretty quickly changes gear into an episode that's more like a Last Stand type episode. And it's a very slow burn. It's a real slow burn of an episode. There isn't actually that much action in it, but it worked really well. I've noticed this a lot of, if you look back over Moffat's history of series finales, they're more about a building tension rather than a sudden just constant throwing everything at you. Ross C. Davis tended to throw everything at you when he did his endings. This is a lot more restrained, a lot more held back, and I do feel it works better for us, if I'm honest. I do feel it works so much more. That build-up tension is far more effective than just constantly throwing everything at you. And this is, I have to say, absolutely excellent. It's a fantastic finish to the series. It is a send-off, because obviously we know that Dr. Capaldi is leaving the series, and we're going to be getting a new one soon, or will be a Christmas special. So we know the companions who aren't rejoining him. So this is a finishing off, a tying up of the loose ends of all those people, and how they get on with themselves and what goes on. And it does it excellently. I have to say, it was brilliant series finale for me. I love the tension it built up. I love the way it built up. So bad, but it was absolutely really, really good. The whole story is an hour-long episode, so it's a bit long because we get a bit more time to develop it. The sort of what goes on with Bill and the Doctor is very impressive. I'm glad they did what they did, rather than try not to spoil too much, rather than going the other possible way they could have gone. I'm glad they stuck to their guns, did what they did, and properly developed the two characters. The way the whole episode balled through with this group of humans trying to fend off against the Cybermen, as it were, and the fact that Cybermen are evolving as they go. I must admit, I felt it was going to be a little shoehorned in. I will allow myself to talk about things that were in the next time trailer, because to me they're fair game, we can judge that. There are other older Cybermen in the series, and they do appear, but I like that. I like the fact that they explained how it happened and why they appeared, which made sense. It all showed their developmental progress. It has been, I have to say, it was an absolute roller. Even though it was slow, even though there was not a lot going on, it was a real roller coaster episode of what was going on, what was going to happen, who was going to deal, how it was going to be dealt with, how it was going to finish, and it worked really, really, really well. Overall, I have to say, it's probably one of my best favourite episode. It's definitely going to be one of the best episodes of the series. This series has been absolutely cracking. This has been an excellent episode to finish off. So I can't talk any much more, because it would spoil way too much about what's going on. And this episode really finished it off perfectly. It finished off the series really nicely. It ends with a little bit of a cliffhanger into the Christmas special, but it does end the series very, very nicely, and I really thought that was very well done. So I can't really say much more, apart from it's a real good episode. Really enjoyed it. I love the development of the characters. I love the way they developed and processed and progressed everything, and it was a very Moffat-esque episode. There were some lovely callbacks to very early on in the season, and indeed to past Doctors, people, companions, and so forth. Some lovely callbacks, and one major callback as well, which I won't reveal, that have tied it all together really nicely. So yeah, really good episode. Really enjoyed it. So, character-wise, obviously, we can't talk about, it's not saying Sims and Missy, let's just call them Master and Missy. They're back. I have to say, despite Master being there, he didn't have a great deal to do. He pretty much teamed up with Missy, and they didn't really get up to a great deal of mischief. Initially, they started off, they looked like they were going to do it one way, but overall, they just appeared to be almost side characters of the plot. So, I knew there wasn't probably going to be a lot they were going to do, and it didn't really show how they all tied together about what was going on. How he tied in what was going on the side, but it was all thrown away quite early on. I felt that was built up and then shot down. But I have to say, Master and Missy on screen, Gomez and Sims, really good chemistry, really bounced off each other really well. It was really funny. The way they dealt with each other, the way they compared the differences, but also similarities worked really, really well. And the way they finished off and ended was really nice as well. And the way it sort of see the hook that's been left behind is very nice as well. So really impressed and really liked that bit at the end. So the way they went together. I can't say enough how good Capaldi's performance was in this. It was spot on. Here's a key moment later on where he has to do a big speech to some of his to Master and Missy, and he does a fantastic job of it. He really actually nails it, and the sort of sense of desperation he does. He really comes across as this guy who's trying to do what he can, but knowing that ultimately he's not going to do a lot, and that works really well. Bill's, oh god, Pearl Mackie, that's it. I was trying to forget who her name was. Phenomenal, again, brilliant this episode. This is my last chance to basically say that I was really down on her as an actress when I first saw her. That first preview of her, really down on her. I thought it didn't look very good. But she's going to be going down as one of my favourite companions in the series. I mean, compared to what we've had in the past, I mean, I never liked Clara, didn't like her character, I didn't like the way she was performing stuff, I didn't like that personality. But Pearl Mackie's Bill has been spot on every episode, and this episode she really outdoes herself really brilliantly, and again it ties up nicely with how she goes in the end. Matt Lucas, this again is going to probably be, well, I suppose the plot hook is there for him to appear in later episodes, but it's probably sort of ended off now with what goes on now in this episode, and he does a cracking job as well. The side characters are a bit forgettable. I don't remember half their names, not so sure on them. So it is really just around those group of people there. But they do what the people on there do a fantastic job. It was superbly acted, superbly performed, really, really excellent. Can't fault those guys enough. They've done a fantastic job with this episode, and indeed the entire series. They've been spot on. Can't fault them enough. Production, also really good. I also mentioned earlier the pacing. I love some of the neat details, like as you have the older and the younger side, so the old and the young Cybermen, the different versions, the Mondasian Cybermen, the later versions. I like some neat details how they sort of showed them being different. You know, Mondasian Cybermen, the later ones are a lot more nimble and agile in a way, and a lot more sort of determined. Whereas the Mondasian ones are they feel a little bit like they are simply they feel like they're just sort of like really basic machines marching along, and when you see them walking about, they walk very slowly compared to the later ones. There's no purpose to their movement. They really do it differently. So that was spot on, perfect. I like the way the episode has tied up most of the loose ends it's going to have. One thing I do know about Moffat episodes tour is that he does sort of rush the endings. So there's a big gap between. It's not necessarily needs to be there. There's a big gap between what happens at the with the guys. You know, what happens with them at their sort of conclusion of they've achieved their goal, as it were. And then it's like, oh well, the Doctor's back in the TARDIS. Everybody's back to normal. It's all back to normal. It's all fine. It's good. Here we are. Jump ahead a little bit. They cut a lot out in between. They do leave some open questions about what happened to them, what happened to those people. They leave a lot of open questions. But I don't really mind that too much. It allows your imagination to fill in the gaps. But it does feel a little bit... Oh, sorry, I feel I've just been messaged about someone saying how good the episode was. It does fill in the gaps nicely. So yeah, I have to say, really excellent in that respect. So, really, I have to say the production of it was pretty darn good. Some of the camera shots were beautiful. There's some absolutely beautiful shots in there, particularly revolving around the Doctor, without saying too much. And sort of it's phenomenally produced. I have to say this season's been great all over. They've really outdone themselves this episode. Fantastic episode, really, really good. So final thoughts, it's been a cracking season, and this has been a cracking finale. Brilliant, it's everything about it. I don't think there's really been much of a duff episode all season. It's been great all over, and this has ended just brilliantly. It really feels like we've come to an end of an era, both with Capaldi's Doctor, although it's not full end of an era, and also it does feel like we're going it for Moffat's end of an era. It feels very sad. It does have a very sort of sad ending to it, but you always have to say when the Doctor gets close to their last series, their generation, it always has a sad ending to it, and this one's no exception. They always do outperform them. So fantastic, guys! Fantastic episode. Really pulled out the stops. Really good. It's a really good episode. Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this review of Doctor Who. If you have, would you please do us a favour and subscribe to the channel? We love your subscriptions. It helps, get us more program. We really want to do more sort of things. There will be another little video between me and one of my colleagues called Middlemeister. We're going to discuss the whole series, not just episode, and sort of pick a few things about it. But overall, I say I've really enjoyed having you guys with us. I look forward to seeing you at Christmas. So I've been TheSuffolkRam. I look forward to seeing you on a future review. Until then, see you later.